Hello, friends, and welcome back to the Dave Crenshaw Success Project. This is the show where I teach my children how to be successful through the life stories of others, and you get to come along for the ride, no matter what your age is. This is a special episode. We do this every once in a while where I'll sit down with my kids and we'll just have a discussion about a principle of success that I've learned throughout the years. So everyone say hello.
Hi.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi.
Hello. We have Stratton here. Stratton is how old?
17.
We have Ella here. Ella is how old?
13.
13. And Darcy?
I am 10.
She is 10. All right. So what we're going to talk about today, if you've listened to the previous special episodes, we've talked about principles from my book, The Result. And the result is basically about the idea that there is a pattern that people follow to get the results that they want out of life. Whether or not they know they're following this pattern, they are following it. And it's something that I've seen over and over in my coaching. It's something that I've taught people. If there's something you're trying to achieve, then you want to follow this formula. We've already talked about two of the elements of the formula. Who can remember the first two that we've talked about so far?
Systems?
Systems,
Accountability.
accountability, and what's the third?
Vision.
It starts with an M.
No.
Wait, what was the letter you said?
M.
Oh, M. I heard
Systems,
something
accountability, and
Motivation.
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 Okay. So if you ever want to remember the formula, it's SAM. That just makes it easy to remember.
Sam.
Oh,
What we're going to do is we're going to, in the next few of these episodes, we're going to talk about each of the parts of motivation, because motivation is probably one of the least understood aspects of having success. And the reason why is because when someone says motivation, what's the first thing you think of? Stratton, what do you think of when you hear the word motivation?
Motivational speaker.
Yes, exactly. Right? You think of some guy, some gal standing up on stage and preaching to you. There was even a classic Saturday Night Live routine where there was a guy, I am a motivational speaker, and I used to live in a van down by the river. And we think that someone is going to show up, whether it's a coach, right? And they're going to say, you guys need to try harder, and here's why you need to try harder, whatever it is. And they're preaching at you, and that's going to help you be motivated. What I have found is that rarely works. It feels good. It feels good for a moment or two, but it doesn't last because you're relying on something or someone external to you to motivate you. What I found works best is when we tap in to the existing motivation that someone has. So we figure out what motivates you, and then we help them succeed. So I'll give you an example that you're more familiar with. Your mom, and those who are not familiar, my wife is the head coach of the local high school swim team. And we've talked about the idea that every person on her team is motivated by something different. All right? One person might be there because they want to make friends. Another might want to be there because they want to get a scholarship. Another one might be there just because they want to exercise, right? Lots of different motivations. The trick for her as the coach is to figure out what each person's motivation already is, and then tap into that, and then remind them of why what they're doing, why they're doing these drills, why they're exercising, is going to help them get that thing. Okay?
Okay.
So, I am not trying to motivate you. I'm not trying to motivate someone else. What I am trying to do is help you become more aware of the motivation that you already have. So there are three aspects to that: vision, values, and cause, meaning like a charitable cause or a cause that you believe in.
That's familiar sounding.
Yeah? How does that sound familiar?
You say that a lot in your podcast episodes.
Okay.
At the end, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about vision today. So I asked you to think a little bit before this episode about what your vision is, but let me just explain what that means. Essentially, it's a picture in your head, or even better than a picture, it's like a video in your head that you have, that you are projecting and saying, that is where I want to be in the future. So it's a vision of the future at some point. With most of my clients, I ask them to think about a 5-year vision. because it's far enough out that it allows you to dream a little bit, but it doesn't go so far that it's unrealistic. Now, I did ask Darcy and Ella in their case to think of a 10-year vision because you're kind of at the beginning stages of figuring out what you want to do in the future. So I want to give you more room to think about it. Stratton's a little bit older. I asked you to think about a 5-year vision. So here's the approach that I take with my clients when I'm asking them to think about a vision for the first time. So I want all of you to do this with me. I want you to imagine that you climbed into a time machine and we go 5 years into the future, or Ella, I'm going to put you on the spot first. We go 10 years into the future and we step out of the time machine and we pull out our phones and we start recording video of you and your life 10 years into the future. What are a few things that we see in that video?
I don't know, me sitting in like an apartment or maybe a home, possibly.
Okay. Best case scenario.
Best case scenario. In a house, sitting in a library, reading or writing. Hey.
Library.
Right, of course,
house,
because
okay.
we know you like big books and you cannot lie.
Right?
Right? Okay, so that's great. Where is this house? Do you want to still be in Utah? Would you prefer to be someplace else? Does it matter?
I think I'd still be in Utah.
Okay.
Preferably not a very busy place. Like, I feel like whenever we're driving down, like, on these busy streets, and I see these houses, and I'm like, I would never be able to live there. Sleeping there as cars zoom by at night.
Okay, so you want a little bit more quiet. See, now, already, do you see how I understand a little bit about you and your motivation? What does that tell me? Let's, Stratton, put on your coaching hat for a second. What did I just figure out about Ella's motivation just on that little conversation that we've had so far?
Well, she likes being around books, writing or reading.
Okay.
She likes quiet spaces where she can focus, she can think, and she likes living in the state that she's already living in.
Okay. So I would, if I were trying to help you be successful, I would try to tie in how something you do will help you have more of that quiet life of being able to read and relax, right? So let's go just a little bit further. What would you, in an ideal situation, based on the knowledge you have now, what would you be doing for work?
Maybe just writing.
What kind of writing?
Writing books, maybe some freelance writing. That's the word I'm looking for.
Okay. Fiction, nonfiction?
Honestly, I don't really care too much about that.
All right. So now we could continue this conversation. We could ask questions like, who is in your life? Are you married? Do you have children at this point? That's pretty early for children, but could happen.
How old will she be? Like what?
Well, it's 10 years in the future, so you're 23. So that'd be
right, you're 13.
24.
I remembered.
Yeah, 24 in a month. Okay, so we would keep doing that. Now, what I would encourage you to do, writer, is to do what we just did, but write it down. We were just before we started, we were talking about what kind of questions should you ask? It's the question words. What, when, where, how. You could even ask how much, whether that's like money in the bank or whatever it is, how much free time you have. Ask those questions and then write all that out. When I help clients create that first draft of their vision, it could take 2-3 pages. At some point, we want to consolidate that down to 1 page. Why would you guess I would say I want it in 1 page?
Focus.
Yeah, it's focused. It's easier to read. It's easier to reflect on. Too much writing, it starts to just get difficult to follow. And then what you can do is you can refer back to that vision on a regular basis. But it's so important to have it documented. Documented meaning it's got to be physical. It's got to be written down, or maybe you make a board with a bunch of pictures. I know some people like to do that. Darcy, I'm going to put you on the spot. Why do you think it's important to have something that is written down or visible rather than just having the vision in your head?
So that way you can not forget, and so that way if you see it, you're like, oh right, I was working on this, so I need to get it done or something.
Yeah, and also just in your head, things start swirling around, right? It starts to be less clear. If you put it down on paper, then you can look at it, and then maybe once a year, you go back to the vision, and what do you do with it? If I review it once a year, do I make that vision one time and say, that's it? I have to follow this for the rest of my life.
You can make revisions. Go
Yeah.
back and change stuff. Yeah.
Exactly. So that's the point of it. It doesn't have, I wouldn't recommend changing it weekly or even monthly. It's too much. But maybe once a year, as you go back and look at it, you have an appointment with yourself and you say, review vision and revise. And every time I've done that, I've been pleasantly surprised at how far along I got with that vision and how much I've accomplished with it. The other thing about putting it into writing is it's the first step toward action and making it the physical manifestation of your vision,
I
right?
feel like I remember hearing something somewhere about like when you write something down, you're way more likely to actually accomplish that thing.
Very true. Yep. I've found that to especially be true. Well, and what I mean is, too, when you write it down, that is the first action step toward accomplishing it. You didn't just think about it. You did something. And now it's going to move you along toward that. Okay. Stratton, let's ask you for a second. 5 years into the future, I get on that time machine with you. We step out. It's 5 years in the future. We start filming. What are a couple of things that we see? I don't ask you to give the whole vision, but what are a couple of things that immediately pop into your head?
Well, I'd hope I'd be in college because I'd be, 5 years from now? It's 22, almost 23. I'd want to be in college. That'd be like my 2.5 year of college. I think, should I go completely 100% like over the top bonkers optimistic?
Yeah. I don't want it to be unrealistic, but I want it to be the best case scenario that is realistic.
Okay.
So we're not going to say, you're playing quarterback in the NFL.
No.
That's not going to happen.
No.
Sorry. That ship sailed a long time ago.
Yeah, that's gone.
But there are still some things, pretty amazing things that are possible 5 years from now.
I guess realistic, I'd want a nice apartment to be living in. I'd probably want to be off campus by that point.
On that apartment, is that rental or is that something that you perhaps own and are trying to build equity in? I'm not trying to lead you one way. I'm just asking you to think for more detail.
Either way, I think it could be realistic either way.
Okay.
Either owning part of that or renting it. Let's see. I'd want to be working on majoring. Right now, my goal is to major in English and minor in creative writing or something.
Okay.
Something along those lines.
And minor in business, right?
Take business classes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. We've had that conversation.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was going to say that. That was in there.
Okay.
It was in the subtext. It was in the
Ah,
subtext.
got it.
Yes, the subtext.
Yes.
Got to read the footnotes.
Okay.
I want to be in a relationship with someone.
Okay.
I'd
Not necessarily married at this point?
Could be, could not be. I don't know. I feel like right now it'd be kind of hard to tell, but I feel like it's a realistic goal to at least be in a relationship with someone.
Let me pause on that for a second. So even within the vision, you can get a lot more detail, like what kind of person is that? What is she like? What are the characteristics? What is that relationship? What does that communication look like?
Right.
So I'm going to say something that sounds like I'm contradicting myself. I'm not. The more detail you can go into, the better. Because what it means is that vision is getting clearer and clearer in your head. Why does that sound like I might be contradicting myself? Because I said we got to get it on one page. Okay. But you can have, with something like that that's so critical, a relationship, you could spend a whole paragraph on that.
Yeah.
This is how we communicate. This is how we spend our time. Go ahead. What were you going to add?
Paragraph, page, relationships are important.
Right.
So, right. Yeah. So I guess if you want me to be more specific, sure, let's say married.
Okay.
Married, 22, 23, still in college, that kind of thing.
All right. So that's something that you would want to sit down and do the same thing. Get in the time machine, get out, write it down on a single page. All right, Darcy, let's go with you. 10 years from now, what's one thing you want to have in your life 10 years from now?
I'll probably be
You'll be 20.
Yeah.
Oh, that's weird.
I'd be in college, and I would probably want, if I had a house, I'd want like a cozy little cabin, like near a little ravine or river, and like I would want a pet cat. And
I'll visit it.
I could have
Sounds nice.
a bunch of like cute little things in my little cabin in the woods.
Great. So that's a first place to start. And maybe 10 years from now isn't realistic with that. We don't know. But just writing that down, especially at your age, the younger you are, the more possibilities you have, right? Because there's still so much that's ahead of you. So feel free to have fun with it and play with it. And maybe if it doesn't happen in 10 years, that cabin, maybe it can happen in 20 years. And you've already made that decision that that's something that you want in your life. Now, one more thing, and then I'll turn it over to you all for questions. I asked her the question, what's something she wants to have in her life? And so she gave that. And that's something that you do want to consider. It is important, right? Like one of the things that I wanted to have was a home that was 100% paid off and debt-free. Mm-hmm. And that is something that I now have. And that's a wonderful feeling to have. I hope that you all experience that someday. But you can also ask the question about, who will I be? What kind of person will I have become?
Right.
And also what will I be doing with that time? So you can look at it in terms of be, do, and have. And that's another way to frame that vision. If you want, you could even put that one page that way. Who am I? What will I be doing? And what do I have? And I like putting it in that order because to me, those are the most important things.
Okay.
All right. What questions do you have for me about the vision?
I have one.
Okay.
I mean, I'm assuming you practice what you preach and you've written down goals and that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. And you've looked back like a year or two after writing it. How often has it changed and how drastically has it changed?
The answer to that question is it has changed less the older I have become. So right now I'm 48, and what my vision was 10 years ago is radically different than what it is now. But the more and more I've progressed along my career, the more clear things have become and the more accurate I can get with the vision.
Right.
And I think that's okay to have that evolution, right? Because right now Darcy's 10.
Yeah.
There's a lot of speculation, lots of things that can happen, right?
Yep. She's still in elementary school.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of stuff happens between elementary school.
And like your interests change. Yeah. I mean, like 3-4 years ago, you were into engineering. And
I wanted to be an aerospace engineer. And now, that's a very different field.
Right. But the good thing about that is the reason why that's changed is because you actually got experience in that thing.
Yep. I tried it out.
And having that vision, even though you didn't think of it that way and we didn't put it that way, that was your vision, right? Mm-hmm. And so that vision pushed you forward to getting those experiences. And then you had the experiences and you go, you know what, that's not quite for me. So that's part of what's going on. So early on, you're going to be experimenting. The vision's going to lead you to try things. You're going to try it, and then the vision will change again. I'm pretty clear now what I want and what I
would
enjoy
think
doing.
So.
although I say that, but over the last couple of years, I went through this period where I was trying to decide, do I want to keep doing things the way that I'm doing it?
Right.
And really, the podcast that we're doing right now came about because of some changes that I had with that.
Yeah, it's a new thing.
Yeah, but without that vision, I wouldn't have had a framework to make clear decisions. I would just kind of drift into whatever seems interesting in the moment. And while there's some value in that from time to time, you also want to be a little more strategic and a little more focused about the choices you're making.
Yeah. I'm assuming that applies to hobbies and interests too, like having a goal to...
I want to pause for a second because you've used the word twice now.
Okay.
And the word is goal.
Goal.
Okay. I want to separate in your mind the difference between a vision and a goal.
Okay.
Okay. A vision is a long-term, like we're pulling out a telescope and we're looking way out into the future. Another way of comparing a vision is saying, we're in Salt Lake City. We want to drive to Manhattan, place that you've all had the opportunity to go, right, in New York. Mm-hmm. So the vision is New York, Manhattan.
Right.
The goals are the intermediary steps between here and there.
Right.
So if we're taking a road trip to New York, what would be a short-term goal within the next...
Get to the next gas station.
Okay.
Yeah.
Or even we could break it into something like get to Denver. Right. From Salt Lake City.
Right.
That's the goal. So when you say set goals, it's different than a vision.
Right.
I look at the vision and I say, okay, 2.5 years from now, where do I need to be to hit that 5-year vision? And then I cut it in half again. A year or a year and a few months from now, where do I need to be to hit that goal? And you can cut that in half again. 6 months from now, where do I need to be? And you just keep breaking it down until you ask the question, what's the next step? What's one thing that I need to do to move me closer to meeting that vision that I've set 5 years in the future. And again, going back to the example of taking a trip to New York, I need to put gas in the car, right?
I needed to get in the car.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. So that's how you can take this big, crazy thing that seems very far away and break it down into smaller pieces until it's about what am I going to do today.
Okay.
Yep.
Cool.
Okay. What other questions do you have?
What are like the steps to getting to the end, or like where your vision actually shows?
Where you make it happen? That's where SAM comes in. Systems, accountability, motivation. So the motivation is, and really you could put these in any order. I just put it in that order because it's easier to remember SAM, right, than MSA or something like that. Okay. But you say, all right, if this is the vision that I have, and here's a step toward that, like let's say I want to be an outstanding writer. What is my system for becoming a writer? And so you get that system. Who is going to hold me accountable? And you find someone to hold you accountable. So this is where motivation connects with the result formula. You choose where you want to go, and then you find a system to help you get there, and you find someone to hold you accountable or follow up with you, coach you, whatever, to help you get to that place.
Okay.
That answer your question?
Yeah.
All right.
Cool.
Ella, you have any questions?
I guess I have like a very basic question. Why, like, what is the point of having this vision?
Okay.
Why can't you just do things without this vision at all?
You certainly can. And maybe things will still turn out okay, right? I know sometimes people will say, well, if this person didn't have a vision and they didn't get there. And that certainly can happen. I'm a big believer in odds and probabilities.
Spoken like an entrepreneur.
Yeah, true. And, I heard it once and someone said that the probability of success minus the probability of failure equals 1. That sounds really interesting. What does that mean? It means that if you increase the probability of success, the probability of failure has to decrease. And if you decrease the probability of failure, the probability of success increases. Now, it's a long way to get to the answer of your question. Why even do we need to do this vision? Because you are radically increasing the probability of success. Because it helps you be focused. It helps you make more strategic choices. It helps. Here's the big thing, too. And right now, it's great that you have lots of opportunities. But once you get into your mid-20s and into your 30s, you're going to start seeing that you have too many opportunities and too many choices that can pull you in lots of different directions. And at that point, what a lot of people do is they try to do it all. And when you try to do it all, where do you end up? Pretty much in the middle.
Yep.
That's because that's what most people do, and that's why most people end up in the middle. But if you really want to succeed, the vision will help you say, you know what? My vision tells me this is what I want to accomplish. So I'm going to take more of the writing gigs, Ella, instead of taking these things that pull me in a different direction.
Mm-hmm.
So vision is kind of like a roadmap.
Yeah.
Through navigating all of that, and it's telling you the stops you need to get along the way to achieve that vision. And if you need to take a detour, then you plan it out.
Yes. It's a decision-making tool as well. For instance, I mean, you all know and love David Winford, who's a coach and mentor of mine, and we have a couple of episodes that are coming up with him, or maybe they've already happened before this. And one of the things that he'd ask me, I'd be trying to answer this really difficult question about what am I going to do in my business? And every once in a while, he'd say, well, Crenshaw, what does your vision tell you to do?
Did you learn this principle from him?
I would give him a lot of credit for it, for sure. Yeah. What does your vision tell you to do? So what does that cause you to do? You stop and you go, oh yeah, the vision. That thing that I wrote a couple of months ago and I've forgotten to look at a couple of times, which isn't what you want to do. But anyway, it happens. So I go back to the vision and I look at it and I go, oh, it's really obvious. When I look at the vision, it says I should invest my marketing dollars into this thing, or I should spend more time with my family, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
So it's a really powerful decision-making tool, and it goes hand in hand with the next thing we're going to talk about, which is values. Both vision and values are very, very powerful decision-making tools. But the vision is about the destination.
Cool.
Any other questions?
I guess my question is, you said it will help you kind of make your choices, but how do you know when you should make one of those other choices? Because how can your vision change if you're just making only those choices that are centered on that vision?
Well, sometimes you're going to have things that didn't have anything to do with the vision, right? Sometimes decisions, you're not writing every single thing down, especially on a one-page document, right?
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes you'll get new information about life, about yourself, about the people around you, and the new information helps you decide that I'm going to need to make an adjustment to my vision. This is not something rigid. The vision is very changeable, but you don't want to make those choices to change it casually. That's what I'm talking about, right? So if something comes along, new information, new opportunity, and you look at it and you say, you know what? I know I wrote this in my vision, but I'm going to make a change. That's okay. But what makes that powerful is you're making it consciously and carefully and strategically rather than just getting blown around by whatever happened in the moment, whatever wind of change came along in the moment. Does that answer your question?
Mm-hmm.
Wonderful. So what would be an action that you can take, and that those who are listening, what's an action that they could take based on this conversation that we had?
Write down their vision.
Yeah. Or in your case, write down your vision.
Yeah.
Right?
I'll write down your vision, Hella. You will climb
Yes.
Mount Everest and...
Only if you come with me.
Yeah, that would certainly be
I won't
entertaining
write
to
that
have
in
you
there.
each write a vision for the other person, I'm sure. But yes, I would encourage you to do that. Please do that. And it's something that as writers you're going to be very familiar with. Don't try to get it right the first time. Don't try to make it perfect. Don't try to get everything in. Instead, give yourself an opportunity to make drafts. So, to be more specific, I would say schedule an hour from now. I'm not going to follow up with you on this. I'm not going to make you do this. But schedule sometime in the next week, 1 hour, to sit down and write the first draft of your vision. And just put as much information into it as you can using be, do, and have, and answering the questions: what, when, where, who, how much. Okay. Sound good?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And everyone listening to this, I'd encourage you to do the same thing. Schedule out that hour and create a first draft of your vision. And if you already have a vision, schedule an hour to review the vision that you've written and make adjustments to it. Because the most important thing isn't the knowledge that you gain, but what?
The
actions. The action that you take on that knowledge. you guys will
I've
hear me
heard
say
it a
enough.
lot, and
Exactly.
I still, yeah.
It's the action that you take on that knowledge. All right. Thanks, children, for doing this with me. And thanks, everyone, for listening. Now go forth and do good things and have fun.
Okay.
You've been listening to the Dave Crenshaw Success Project, hosted by my dad, Dave Crenshaw, and produced by Invaluable Incorporated. Sound editing was done by my brother Stratton Crenshaw. Research and assistant production by Victoria Bedez. Voiceover by me, Darcy Crenshaw. And the music is by Ryan Brady via Pond 5 licensing. Please subscribe to the Dave Crenshaw Success Project on Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you like to get your podcasts. And please don't forget to leave us a 5-star review.